right, everyone, welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed your lunch or are still enjoying it in some cases. I'm happy to introduce the second keynote of the day. Here to give us the Mautic update is Mautic's Project Lead Ruth Cheesley. Take it away.
Thank you very much. Awesome. All right, isn't it the graveyard shift? It's supposed to be quiet after lunch. Okay, yeah, thanks everyone for coming. It's been great seeing you all here, and I hope you've had a good morning so far. So for those of you who I haven't yet met, my name's Ruth Cheesley, and my pronouns are she, her. I come from the UK, if my accent doesn't give it away, and I'm project lead from Mautic. So if you have any questions about Mautic, feel free to grab me. You can always drop me an email, and I will be uploading the slides. In fact, the slides should be on my website already on speaking.ruthcheesley.co.uk. And that's a LinkedIn code. I promise it's not a Rickroll YouTube. It's a LinkedIn zap. So feel free to connect on social media. So how many here are new to the Mautic community? Haven't been to a Mautic event? Haven't? Okay, so it's actually quite a lot of people given the size of the audience. So firstly, a warm welcome to the Mautic community. I hope you have experienced the friendship and the camaraderie and the welcoming nature of our community. We are worldwide, so last year, our last Mauticon in person was in India in February, and then before that was in Sao Paulo. And we had an amazing meetup in Lagos as well. So we've got people all over the world who are using Mautic, and we're really making a difference to people's lives because people like you are being able to access this really powerful open source marketing automation software that probably wouldn't be available to the businesses if they didn't have it as an open source product. So before we go any further, I just want to say a huge, huge thank you to these people who are the core team who have organized this event. So if you're not eating food, do you want to stand up so we can all say thank you to everyone who has been involved in the core team? So that's Eki, Madeline, Ricardo, Lennon, and Simran's not here. So. And Ricardo's at the back and he doesn't want to stand up. Yeah. So without these people, the event wouldn't have happened. They've put in so many hours behind the scenes to make this event happen. And also this team of volunteers. So those of you who were in the session with Favor earlier today, hearing about no-code contributions, most of these people have been involved in no-code contributions to make this event happen. From someone totally new to Mautic, Dorcas, who was doing all of the design work for the project, to doing the marketing, to people who are running the awards. People have just stepped up and said, yes, I'd like to help. How can I help? These are my skills. So a massive thanks to those people. Some of them couldn't be here today, but we really benefit from their contributions. So those of people who are here, you can stand up. Favor? I think Robert's just gone because he's doing the awards later, so come on. And again, thank you to our sponsors, because without the sponsors, we wouldn't be able to afford to do this event. So massive, massive thank you. Some of them are here, some of them you've spoken to. Anyone here, if sponsors want to stand up so you can see who they are? Real quick. Yeah. So thank you very much for supporting Mautic. Thank you very much for supporting Mautic. And also thank you to the sponsors who weren't able to be here, but they still supported the event. So now is a really exciting time to get on board with Mautic. Adoption of Mautic is really growing. People are starting to really make a lot of money with Mautic, but also we're starting to see a lot of people feeling very optimistic about where Mautic is going. So we recently sent out the business survey to business users in our community, and I'm going to give you the answers to some of the questions. So this first one, how's your Mautic pipeline increased or decreased over the last year? So the vast majority of people have said it either increased or stayed the same, which is great to hear, that people are getting more work or they're getting consistent work. We also asked, how do you expect your Mautic business to grow over the next 12 months? And this was the result. So 81% of the 37 people who submitted said they think the business is going to grow, 16% that it's going to stay the same. So people are starting to see a really strong growth in Mautic. And it's not only used in the techie businesses. So Mautic is being used across every vertical, pretty much. In healthcare, in fast-moving consumer goods, in medical industry, in industry, everywhere Mautic is being used. So it's a great opportunity as a business because you're not just focused on one particular vertical. There's space for everyone. There's a big, open, wide ocean for everyone. And businesses are seeing that there is a bright future ahead for Mautic as a marketing automation tool. I think we've still got to do a bit of work on the 24% maybe, who are neutral about Mautic's bright future. But I'm really positive about Mautic's future. We're really seeing things starting to develop momentum. And if there's people here who are individual contributors, so you're not actually an entrepreneur or a business owner, businesses are also hiring in Mautic-related roles. So we asked our businesses, what kind of roles are you hiring for? And out of the 23 responses, we've got people hiring marketers, we've got people hiring developers, consultants, and other, which I guess is more like DevOps and that kind of roles. So there are opportunities coming up around the world to work with Mautic and be paid for working with Mautic. And in terms of adoption, we're also seeing a bit of a rebound. So we had a bit of a dip in the number of websites that are calling back to our stats server every month. We had a bit of a dip in 2021, 22, and now in 2024 we've got a couple of months left and we're still higher than we have been in the last couple of years. So I reckon we're going to be moving back more towards what we were like at 2020 and then continuing up. So this is the best part of the keynote for me, is celebrating all of the people who make this happen. Because without our contributors, we wouldn't have an open source product. We wouldn't have all of the new features that we are bringing out. So without further ado, I'm going to put up the lists that everyone likes, the top 10 that everyone's like, where am I on the list? So the first one is companies. So the top 10 companies who've contributed to Mautic over the last year by the number of contributions. And the pink ones have people here at this conference. They have representatives here at this conference. So a big thank you to all of these businesses. A thank you to everyone, actually, who contributes to Mautic, but particularly these ones, because they're giving a lot more time. And there's new names on this list, which I really like. So it's not just the same old, same old. There's new businesses coming up through the ranks as well. And these are the most active companies. So when we talk about active companies, we're talking about conversations in the forums, in the Slack community, discussions happening on GitHub, people helping each other, basically. And without people being active in our community, it wouldn't be as vibrant, it wouldn't be as welcoming, and it wouldn't be as supportive. So these are our top 10 most active companies over the last calendar year. And the most top 10 individual contributors. So I'm afraid Anderson is going to be very devastated that he hasn't topped you, John. I think it's like his life's mission is to get to number one on the contributors. But these folks are really making a difference in Mautic. And a contribution can be helping someone out on the forums, so having a response that's marked as a solution. It can be helping someone out on Slack. It could be working on a marketing task to create an email template or to create some designs for a social media. So it can be everything, and also contributing on the code. So massive thanks to these, and also thanks to the companies that employ these people, because they're enabling them to continue this work. And the most active individuals, so these are the ones who are the people having the conversations. And some of these are actually because we had Mauticon India in February. So Avinash was the lead for Mauticon India, so he was very active because he was getting everyone to do stuff, basically. And various other people in this list are working in working groups and things like that. So big round of applause to everyone who's been in those lists and everyone who's contributed. So that's kind of news from the community, I guess, but we've got some more news to talk about in Mautic. So the first thing I want to share is that we've got some leadership changes. So in the Mautic community, we have 5 teams. Each team has a team lead and an assistant team lead, and they have terms. And some of those terms have actually come up for expiration recently, so we've got new people joining. So hopefully this is going to work. This is my first breaking news. Hey! It worked, hurrah. So these 3 individuals, so Mateus, Oluwatobi, and Nico, have been with us for quite some time, contributing in the Mautic community. Mateus is stepping down as a product team lead. Oluwatobi has been assistant team lead after stepping back from team lead in marketing, and Nico has been assistant team lead for community. So they've done an amazing job being part of the leadership team, but they're now stepping down. And we've got some new volunteers who are stepping into leadership teams. So Joey, who is here somewhere, over there, is taking on product team lead. And Rahul, yeah, we can clap. which is very exciting. Rahul Shinde is not here, unfortunately, but he's been a massive help for the Google Summer of Code. So we've been co-mentoring students through Google Summer of Code. And also he's paid to contribute 1 day a week to help with our PR backlog and with bug fixes. Mike is here. Mike is taking on assistant team lead for marketing. Oh, what just happened? So yeah, Mike's been working in the trials team, which has been really fantastic, having his marketing expertise there, and also helping with the website rebuild. So we're finally in the process of rebuilding the website, which I'll talk a bit more later. And Avinash, who led the India event in February, is stepping up to be assistant team lead for the community team. Unfortunately, he's not here either, but big thanks to him as well. So very exciting times. We also have 2 members of our council who had a 1-year term, and they're stepping down at the end of this year. So Andy and Favor's here at the back, have done a fantastic job of getting our council up and running. We now have Simran, who's joining us on the council, and we have 1 seat vacant at the moment. So if you're interested in knowing what it is to be on the Mautic Council, to be a part of that organisation and what that means to Mautic, come and have a chat with me, because we would really like to fill that seat. So that's kind of community news. And next I want to talk a bit about what we're doing in terms of refocusing the way we talk about Mautic and we share Mautic with the world. So we really noticed that we need to start focusing much more about what Mautic is as a product. When the acquisition happened, we lost Mautic.com, which was primarily where Mautic's product marketing was done. And we only had Mautic.org, which is about the community. So we're now focusing on actually revisiting that strategy and having Mautic.org be much more product-focused. And the first starting point of that has been to establish a trial system so that people can get into our product through the front door really quickly with no need to set up a hosting environment and know what Docker and Composer and all those things are. They just put their email address in and they get an environment that they can test Mautic in. We started that in May after a request for proposals where we appointed Dropsolid for a period of 3 years to host our trials. And so far we're seeing really good uptake. So we've had over 3,000 users since May sign up for a trial of Mautic. And this is showing the weekly active users, so over that period of time. And we're seeing that continuing to grow. It's mostly solo entrepreneurs or small people, small businesses, but we're also starting to get more mid to large size businesses. And we're starting to get conversions. And that's important because every conversion brings 40% of the revenue back to the community for the first year. So if someone decides to continue and pay for that hosting with the trial provider, we get a kickback from that for the first couple of years. So I also mentioned that we're working on refocusing our website to be product-led, so that it centralizes Mautic. So we're going to be telling user stories. We're going to be exploring the features that are actually in Mautic, what they do, how they compare to other tools, why Mautic is a better choice for certain situations. So the next breaking news alert on this one is the new website is coming into closed beta at this point in time. So we're starting to build out the pages. We're building it in WordPress. And we're looking for people to help us with testing and reviewing the content, to help us with checking accessibility, to help us with updating old content, writing new content for things that we know we need to communicate much better. So if you're interested in this, there's a channel on Slack called WG-website-rebuild. And the WG bit means working group, so it means you do stuff. If you just want to hear about the news, Mautic-community-website. Yeah, so the WG means you've got to work if you join the channel. With this website, what we're planning for, because both me and Mike need a timeline, otherwise we won't get it done, 20th of December is our content freeze. So we want to have all the content done by 20th December and the website live on 6th of January. So now we've told you all, we have to make it happen. So if you're interested in working with us on that, it would be really great to have your input. We'll be doing some work on this tomorrow. And the other work we're doing tomorrow is about refocusing our marketing to be much more how people can succeed with Mautic. So we're looking at what kind of resources do people want, the different personas that use Mautic, what would actually be helpful to help them understand what it is, to help them understand, based on what their use case is, what success they're likely to see with Mautic and what the total cost is and that kind of thing. So we're already doing a lot of the content optimizing. Tomorrow we're going to be making a start on our product-led strategy. So I was taking notes furiously in the keynote this morning, looking at how we can actually do that, how we actually make that a reality. Bearing in mind we don't have a huge team of people we can pay to do this, it's all volunteers. So if you want to help with that, if you're a WordPress person and you'd like to help with maintaining the website, come and chat with us tomorrow in the community sprint. In addition to focusing on how we tell people about Mautic, we've also been working really hard on improving the product itself. And the first step in that process is actually getting feedback from users about what they find difficult, what they really like. Mostly they're telling us about what they don't like and what they find difficult. So the way we've started this, some of you might have filled in this form. Any of you filled in the UX UI survey where you get like a box and you can tell us what you don't like about Mautic? If you haven't, you can go to mau.tc/UX/UI-form. And if you have a company and you've got tickets in your backlog from your customers about the user experience or the user interface, you can stick those in there and we can fix them in core, potentially. So it's been working really well. The UX UI Tiger team have been working furiously on this, and the testers have been really helping us by giving us lots of feedback. And so far, we've had 39 issues reported through that form. We've fixed 12 of them. We've got 14 that are in progress, so we're either discussing and debating how best to fix them, or we're waiting for people to test them, or they're in some process. And there's 13 that are waiting to be worked on. This has resulted in 170 or more, probably now, pull requests. And a pull request is any time something you want to change in the core of Mautic, you have to make a pull request to change that thing. So 170 of those have been made to improve Mautic. And as a result, we've had some really amazing user interface changes. Mautic's had something of a glow up. We've gone from the kind of very boring, that doesn't show up on the screen, very boring campaign builder over the side to a much more user-friendly, colorful interface. You can now also have Mautic in your way, so you can have it with colored pink accents if you want, or dark mode, or there's even a community mode called Frere, which is using the Mautic brand colors. So it allows you to have much more customization over Mautic. We're also considering accessibility by implementing a section on your user profile where you can turn off some of the fancy, snazzy things that start moving and underlining and things. So if you don't actually want those, because for you it makes it more visually difficult to work with, you can now turn them off. So we're not implementing any fancy features without having the ability to turn them off if you don't like them from an accessibility perspective, or if you find them difficult. This one, I'm sure lots of marketers will appreciate. What does published mean? What does published up mean? Nobody ever really knew, and it was very confusing. So now there's changes like, it's called available for use, yes or no. If you put a date in that says start sending at, then the text says I'm going to start sending at the scheduled start date. If you put an end date, it says I'm going to send during that period. And if you put just an end date, it says I'll send until I reach that date. How much more useful is that for a marketer? Like 100 times more useful. So this was one of the slightly harsh feedbacks that we received through that form. So you do have to step back sometimes when you read the comments. But it was very valid, and I read it and I was like, I've thought that since Mautic 1. I think it came from Joomla actually, but. So changes like this are making it much easier for a marketer to get onboarded into Mautic, but also for the marketers using Mautic, it's much easier to understand, to explain to a new colleague what this actually means. You don't have to explain it, you can see it, and like Diego was saying earlier, you can see it and you understand what it does. So providing the user with helpful information, we don't just leave a blank space anymore, we don't just say no data, we actually tell them why there's no data and what you could do to change that. So there's no data here because they don't have any upcoming events. Add them to a segment or a campaign that has events, and something will show here. The same as on dashboards. It gives contextual help information to help people understand what you're missing. So some of you won't have seen any of this yet if you're not testing Mautic. Well, help test Mautic, and then you'll know what's coming. Hopefully tomorrow, all being well, we're going to be releasing a beta of Mautic 6, an alpha of Mautic 6, and Mautic 5.2. And just to give you a context of the amount of work that's gone into it, so in 5.0, those pull requests, we've had 788 of them. In 5.1, 339. And in 5.2 to date, 182. I don't think I've ever seen that many pull requests in one series of Mautic, ever. It's the most contributions we've ever had. And every single one of those has to be tested by 2 people and code reviewed by someone and created by someone. So that's 4 contributions for every one of those pull requests. So nearly 4,000 contributions since 5.0. It's just epic to see the amount of work that's gone into improving Mautic. And so we're also establishing a clear release schedule. So I said we're going to be releasing 5.2 tomorrow and 6.0 alpha. I've got some very exciting news. Some of you will already know this. It will be news for some of you. Today, we've actually just published a blog post, if Drupal has worked, which says that we're implementing a new release schedule. And what we've heard from our users is that it's really difficult if you're a business running loads of Mautic instances, or you've got a Mautic instance that's super complicated. Because we're going so fast with our updates, it can be really difficult to catch up and keep up. And that means you're running insecure versions of software, which is not great. So what our new release schedule is, there's a kind of hazy picture there. I'm not sure how clear that's going to be for the back of the thing. But it goes from now until 2035. So it's quite a long time. And what we're moving towards is a 24-month release cycle between major releases. So from when we release Mautic 7 to when we release Mautic 8, I think it's about 18 months. And then 8 to 9, it'll be more like 24 months. It's going to take us a few releases to get there, but that's where we're going. We're moving to time-based releases, so if it ain't ready on the date, it ain't getting in. No more waiting for this feature because it's really important. If it's not ready on the date, it doesn't get in. And we're extending support for every major version so that it's supported for at least 18 months, every major version. We'll still be doing one security release every quarter because we do need to release security issues, but we will tell you that it will be the middle release of every quarter. So the middle month of the quarter will be a security release if there's security issues to release. And previous versions of Mautic are now going to be supported for at least 6 months after the general availability of the next version is released. So if we're on Mautic 7, that's still going to be supported for 6 months after Mautic 8.0 general availability comes out. So you haven't got to jump straight to 8 as soon as it's released. You've got another 6 months after that. We're also going to be implementing a concept called sponsored releases, where as a business, you can actually sponsor a minor release series. So everything in the 5.1 release or every series, or everything in the 6.2 release or 7.8 release. And you'll get your name and your logo and your link very prominently on the release cycle. And in return for that, you give us some resources to help run the release, so someone to be in the release team, or you give us some funding to actually fund someone to be in the release team. So the idea is it gives you a benefit as a business, but it also gives Mautic some support to work with these release schedules. Something to mention is Mautic 6 is going to be a short release. We're only doing 6.0 and then patch releases, no minor releases in the 6 series. And the reason is we have to catch up with Symfony. So as soon as we release 6.0 general availability, any features are going straight to 7. And there's only going to be a shorter period of time support for 6. It's a short pain for a long-term gain for us to catch up with our framework releases. And the other thing that we've learned through doing some research is actually it does take people a long time to get off of the older version. So this is showing all the websites, all the Mautic instances since Mautic started and how long it's taken people to change to a different version. So you can see that it does take people quite a long time. Even with that extended security support, we're also going to be offering a paid service for businesses who need longer to actually update. So this is called the extended long-term support. You're going to be able to pay for a year in a block, so a year's worth of support, and then a year's worth of support after the end of security support. It will only be backported security fixes, so no bug fixes, no features, just backported security fixes. But this is really important if you are in that situation where it's going to take you a long time to update your instances and you need support a bit longer. So this is going to launch in 2025. There'll be more information coming out about this soon. And then finally, we're scoping clearly defined projects that are introducing features that we either hear from users of Mautic that you want, or we know by the marketing industry and the trends and the way things are going and the feature comparisons that it's something that Mautic really needs. And so we're doing that in a few different ways. The first really exciting one is that we've received nearly 50,000 euros to implement a very much requested feature, which is a campaign library in Mautic. So the first phase of this project is being able to import and export campaigns and everything associated with a campaign from Mautic. So you'll be able to take it out of one instance and put it into a new instance with everything that came with the campaign: emails, segments, tags, categories, everything. So this project is 6 months, a full-time developer and a part-time project manager to implement that import and export bit. And then phase 2 is taking that to the next level, where we'll have a user interface where you can actually click and say, I want to install a double opt-in campaign, I want to install a cart abandonment campaign, and so forth. And there'll be like a marketplace where you can actually submit your own campaigns as well as an agency, as a user, and what have you. So you can also implement your own. And we're also looking at options of maybe we can monetize that, maybe we can support people to do that as well. So that's one, is like looking at grant funding for things that we know people need in Mautic. We also got selected for Google Summer of Code this year, so we had 2 students working for 3 months on projects that we really wanted to get working on. One of the students, Priyanshi, unfortunately she couldn't get a visa or she would have been here presenting this, worked on adding some extra testing in our code so that we catch more bugs before they get to you as a user. And this uses what's called end-to-end testing. So it simulates a user actually interacting with Mautic. So it picks up things that automated code tests don't necessarily pick up. And it's already picked up some bugs for us in the process of development. So that's already there for the contacts bundle, and we can welcome developers actually helping us create tests for other bundles. And the Mautic Marketplace, so this was a project which its main aim, John was the mentor for this one primarily, was about rating and reviewing plugins in Mautic. But the fundamental thing that it's done is allowing us to have this kind of middle layer where we can do sorting and filtering, we can do searching of all of the plugins and things like that that we couldn't do with our existing interface. So the foundational work for that has been done, and the next step is actually working on the user interface to allow the marketplace to actually be a first-class citizen in Mautic and come out of beta, finally. But the nice thing about this is it will allow us to not only serve plugins, but also themes, and also in the future campaigns. So all of those things will be able to come through the marketplace, and we'll have filtered views within Mautic that allow you to interact with the marketplace. Another way that we're looking at features is if a developer comes up with a really great proposal that they want to work on, but they can't do it for free, perhaps they're a freelancer, they're not employed, so they actually need to be paid, is crowdfunding. And this is an initiative that is a really exciting initiative, which is taking our bounce management to the next level. So instead of if you get a bounce back that says the mailbox was full, or they're on vacation, it's setting it to do not contact, we will actually have a list of different types of bounces, and you can take action based on the kind of bounce that it is, appropriate to what you should do as an email marketer based on the type of bounce. So there's a crowdfunding project here. He's currently got $1,100, and he's looking for another $3,600 or so to get the project off the ground. So this is another way we're kind of exploring of getting features funded to actually come into Mautic. So if you're interested in that, do have a chat with Mautic, have a look at that link which takes you to the Open Collective. And another thing that we're looking at in terms of implementing for our users is we hear a lot of people talking about certification, and I've heard it talked about a few times today. At the moment, there isn't really an official Mautic certification. There's no way to prove that your level of skills are at a certain level. So what the council are currently doing is we're looking at scoping an official certification program for Mautic, the open source Mautic. And the initial focus for that, we had some questionnaires with people, and the main thing that people were interested in is the people who are using Mautic and the developers who are building plugins. Those were the 2 primary groups that we heard really wanted to be able to showcase their skill level. So that's what we're starting with to start with. And then at a later date, we'll be introducing certification for integrators, so people who are actually putting Mautic into businesses. So this will be great for individuals to showcase your level of skill, also businesses, because you know that they've gone through training and an examination to have a particular level of competence. So listen out for news about that. I've said Q1 2025. I think it might possibly roll over into Q2 2025 just because of the operational stuff that needs to be done to actually implement this. So that's all the fun stuff. Now we need to talk about the not so fun stuff. So Mautic became an independent open source project in April last year. So for those of you who are relatively new to the community, what that means is that we were originally owned by Acquia, by a company, and I was employed by them, and they owned all of the trademarks, and they were embedded in our governance model. And in April last year, that changed, and we span out as an independent open source project. We were funded for about 8 months by Acquia to help us with seed funding, get started. And we've done really well. We have raised quite a lot of money through memberships. We've done quite well in terms of becoming more sustainable. And it looks all right when you look at this chart, but when you look at the second one, this is what's happening this year. And so we started the year okay, and we did okay, but now things are starting to drop down quite a bit. And if we don't address this and we don't change this, turn this around, then we do run the risk of running out of money. We have more money coming in next year, but the next few months are pretty critical. So some of you might not know if you don't read my open startup reports, which I write every month, then shame on you, go and have a look at the blog, what we actually spend our money on, because we're very open about this. Every month I write, this is what we spent money on, this is where we got our money from, and this is what's happening in the community. So this is our year-to-date income, and this is where it comes from. You can see we're actually quite dependent on some of our higher tier members, which can be a bit of a concern, because if they were to turn around and say, I don't want to sponsor you anymore, that could be a critical problem. So our focus is really on making sure that we have quite a healthy range. But predominantly it's from our corporate memberships that support us. A fairly good chunk of people are monthly sponsors, so they just give us like £5, $50, $100 a month. And event sponsors. So those are the primary categories. This year has been exceptionally difficult across the industry, attracting event sponsors and ticket sales. Everyone running events is really struggling for that this year, and we've really struggled with that this year. In terms of what we spend our money on, mostly it goes on employment, taxes, insurance, and pensions, and all that kind of stuff. A fair amount on infrastructure, so keeping the lights on, keeping all of our websites and stuff running. Events, because we have to pay for like things that come, the swag and all of the venue and stuff like that. And also host fees. So host fees is kind of like bank fees. It's what we pay to actually be hosted by the open source collective. So you can see that we've got income of 108 and outgoing of 156. So why are we in this situation? Well, we're in this situation, actually expenditure-wise, we're pretty much bang on target for expenditure. So some of our expenditures in the budget one is dark blue. So you'll see supporting dependencies at the bottom and host fees halfway up. They're linked to our income. So that's why they're way higher in the budget, because we were expecting our budgeted income to be higher. They're set at 10% of our budget. But generally speaking, most things are pretty decent. The part that we've had difficulty with is we thought more people were going to step up and contribute as a community member, a company using Mautic would step up and become corporate members. And so we were a bit ambitious in that in terms of our budgeting for our membership. And also we were expecting to receive a lot more in terms of event sponsorship and event ticket sales. That combined with the trials not converting quite as quickly as we were expecting, and so not getting the revenue in that we were expecting from the trials, has meant that we've ended up with a deficit this year of around about $50,000. And so what does that mean for Mautic? Well, it basically means if we can't address the deficit, then we can't employ someone full-time to work for the project. And if we can't have someone working full-time for the project, then it means that a lot of projects and initiatives will just stop, because it needs a volunteer to actually step up and run them, and people don't have the time. So a lot of the things and the momentum that we've got going in Mautic could well stop. It could well be that people would step up and take it on, but it could well stop. And also, if that continues, then obviously things that we have to pay for, like our forums, become at risk, because we pay for that every month, and if we don't have the money to pay for it, we don't have the forums. I don't think it's going to get to that. I think we will be able to get out of this deficit. And like I said, when we get into the new year, we have got funds coming in the new year. So the council are fundamentally the organisation that are responsible for this. We're looking at these figures every month. It's not a surprise. We've known it's been coming for several months, and we've been working really hard to try and address this. So we have been scaling back on expenses that we don't need to spend. I've been spending a lot more of my time proactively reaching out to companies who are using Mautic and having those conversations. This is an open source project. Are you making money from it? If you are, could you give some money back to the project? But from first outreach to conversion, it takes like 5 months, 3 to 5 months on average. So it's a very slow burn. We're also trying to introduce these things like I talked about ERTS certification and training, and also affiliate programs where we can say, hey, this software that you might need to start running Mautic, like a mail cleaning service or a hosting service, here's a link, and if you use this link, we get a bit of affiliate income. We're looking at exploring those as well. And we're looking at primarily updating the website and improving the website, because that will also hopefully help attract more people into Mautic and learn more about Mautic, and hopefully have more people extending the trials. And incentivizing corporate membership updates. So already some of the businesses in the community have decided to upgrade their membership because they've seen the value for it. They're getting more work through being involved in the community, and they're giving us more money as a result. So that's what we're doing as the Mautic Council. But what can you do to help us ensure Mautic's growth? Well, if you're not yet, who's an individual member of Mautic? Stick your hand in the air. So some of you are. Awesome. If you're not yet a member of Mautic, it's $100 a year, or 92 euros if you're in the Eurozone. And you get to vote in all of our elections. You get to be a part of all of the discussions that happen in our governance process. And you also get a nice little badge that you can put on your website to say, I'm an individual member of Mautic. If you use Mautic, or your company uses Mautic, corporate membership starts from $1,200 a year. So most people, if you're providing services on Mautic, would be able to afford that if you have a decent number of clients. The other way you can look at it is doing just a one-time or recurring donation. If you can't afford the annual payment for a membership, you can also give Mautic a little bit of money every month just to help us keep things ticking over. And some people have done it so that they provide a service on Mautic, and anytime people buy or at the end of the month, they take a percentage of what they've earned and they just donate it. So it's actually linked to I've earned money with Mautic, so therefore I'm going to give a little bit of that money back to Mautic to make sure that it continues to grow and thrive. And you guys might have some really awesome ideas for fundraisers that I haven't come up with or we haven't come up with, which we would also love to hear. So yeah, if you've got ideas that you think, I think you should do this, do come and chat with us. So on your chair, you will have found a little card. What would be really awesome is if people could have a look at that card, and it says you can write your name and email on it. And if you're thinking about doing one of those things and you'd like to do it today, just write on there what you would like to do. So if you'd like to become a member, or if you want to become a corporate member, you don't have to do it right now, but if you intend to, and you can write a little amount on there, that would be really awesome. If you don't want to give money, but you have skills, and everyone has skills, that you would like to contribute to Mautic, that is equally as valuable, because that also helps us to keep things moving forwards. So if you'd like to give some time as a marketer to help us with campaigns, or you'd like to give some time testing new bug fixes or features, you can also do that. And there's a box to say I'd like someone to contact me, so that if you're not quite sure right now, we can drop you an email. If you want to just chuck some money at us, you can scan the QR code, and that will take you straight to Open Collective, and you can go to donation and put some money on it. But if you can write something on there today, even if it's just I'd like to give an hour to help with reviewing some content, we'll collect them all up at the end of this session, and then in the final session in the awards, I'll tell people what we've actually achieved, whether that's lots of people willing to give time, people willing to give money, and etc. So yeah, don't think that I can't give enough. Every little counts, it really does. So even a small amount will really help. So that's my kind of soapbox. Whilst we're here, I do want to just acknowledge the companies who are doing this already. So these companies are Mautic members who are giving us a large amount every year. So Dropsolid, Acquia, Webmechanic, Lloyd for Digital Marketing are some of our top tier sponsors. I think we have people from everyone except for Webmechanic here today. So a big thank you to them. We've even had the Drupal Association come on board as a bronze tier member, so a membership organisation from another CMS, because they really see the crossover and parallels of working with us. And community organizations, so Comarch, they're actually a company that don't actually provide Mautic services. They use Mautic internally. But they get so much value from it internally that they decided to become a member. And the same for Hydro as well. And the others are agencies. Some of the people are here today from those companies. And this is our current list, as far as I know, of individual members. So these are all the people who've signed up as an individual member. And this just automatically reviews on a yearly basis. It renews on a yearly basis. So I just want to say a big thank you to all of those people. And also to just share this quote, which I've been sharing on every conference, but I think it's great. It's like we don't need multi-millions of people to actually be successful. We just need like 1,000 or so who really care about everything we do and support everything that Mautic does. If we have that really engaged core group of people who are really supporting Mautic in whatever way is practical for you to do, and that might not be financially, we can really move mountains. We can really make progress. We can really challenge those big proprietary tools. And so I just want to end now, because I'm coming up on 30 minutes, and I don't want 40 minutes, with the last breaking news alert. Get your calendars out, because the next conference from Mautic will be on the 9th and 10th of July next year. And this is our global conference. So the global conference is fully online. There's an opportunity to speak online. There's an opportunity to attend online as well. So that's me done. I am open for questions. If anyone has any questions, I don't know where my mic has gone, at the back. Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to shout or put your hand up. Wow. Oh, come on, someone must have a question. Okay. Get the ball rolling.
Thank you, Ruth. Of all the things that you're looking forward to accomplish in 2025, which one thing gets you most excited?
In 2025, I think the Campaign Library project is very exciting because I think it has a lot of potential to really help us with those people who are new to marketing automation to get started really quickly. And if any of you came to the segment session earlier today, having segments using campaigns, I won't go into all the details, like that would make it even more important to be able to do that through a campaign builder. But it also enables you to do things like multi-tenancy much more effectively, because you can export and import all of those campaign resources across your whole fleet of Mautic instances, right? So if your marketers create a really awesome campaign for something, you could then deploy it across everything. And we got grant funding, which is very hard to do. It was quite a grueling process. So thank you for the council who've been very helpful in answering all their questions. So, any more questions? No. Silence. Okay. I think we're done then. Are we done? Yeah? Good? Okay.